Hip hop has took me around the world, saved my life, kept me out of gang banging, probably kept me out of prison. When Fat Lip would come up to me and say, yo, you rock that, that's all I needed. We used to rap to not have to join gangs.
Being an artist, did it ever influence depression for you?
At that age, I didn't need a lot of money. I just needed free drinks on the plane. You know, I needed enough to get a McDonald's burger. You know, I needed enough, give me 20, 30 minutes on stage. I'm the happiest kid in the world. Your power is in your pen, you know? You can write yourself into a mansion or you can write yourself into a jail cell.
Imagine being from that place where some of the world's biggest superstars live, knowing that one shoulder rub could change your life forever. And then imagine standing in a room with one of the biggest producer artists in the world, pretty much tasting that life, but then making a decision to take your own path instead. If you want to subscribe to the channel, subscribe. If you don't. Do I look like I care? Anyway, on today's Sofa Chat, all the way from Los Angeles, USA, we have an artist who's more about knowing himself than selling himself, but then combining the two to find a happy medium, the MC that is Omni. Bro, good to see you back.
Thanks for having me,
Thanks
bro.
again, first of all, for the one take that you did here.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you come back from LA again.
Absolutely.
To join us here. Before we start, let me just say a big up to Receptor Records, also to UKHH.com and Brainscan Records. Make sure you check out their website for everything UK hip hop related. Bro, first of all, thank you for getting me up on stage with Pharcyde the other day.
Man, thanks for coming on stage, man. Your presence there was definitely needed, man. And just listening, because you were the only UK rapper there. So it was kind of like you kind of like said, hey, kind of introduced all of us to UK, and kind of said, hey, make some noise for these guys. This is real hip hop. So that was really cool to have you there. And I remember when you hopped up on stage, and I can just see the kids' eyes light up, and when they recognize, hey, that's our accent, that's our accent, and he's killing it. You know what I mean? So thank you for being there.
No, man, I appreciate it.
Man.
And what an event, though.
Yeah,
Jesus.
crazy, right? What a night, man. What a night. I don't think...
and a surprise, like, presence of Will.I.Am as well.
Crazy. Literally, when he came to the backstage, I took a double take, and I said, yo, Will. It's always great to see artists overseas or someplace other than where you would normally see them,
Yeah, but on top of that, the fact that you know him personally as well.
Yeah, man.
But anyway, let's get started with your story. So where should we begin? I mean, you want to tell us about your beginnings, where you come from?
Absolutely. Los Angeles, California, West Los Angeles to be exact. Started off, writing poetry before I started putting lyrics to beats. My older brother was in a crew. His name is Mo, man. He's in a crew called BLX, and he invited me down to some sessions, and we ended up all getting along, and ended up joining the crew. This is like 90, 97, 98, I want to say. We did an album called Sunch Punch, which was my kind of like debut presence, and just been killing it ever since.
What was your childhood like?
It was lonely. I mean, this might turn into a therapy session, but I mean, what part?
The crazy thing is, whenever I talk to artists, I find most of the artists that I know are quite lonely.
Yeah, man. I think that you find your craft within loneliness, man. Because peer pressure and everything. Like my friends were running around, doing drugs and doing, small petty crimes in the neighborhood. And we weren't really rapping, man. I think when I was alone from, as a kid, I was when I really realized that, like, I started writing poetry. I really got into writing. And I think just out of loneliness sparked this desire to be, who I am today.
What was the family life like?
Parents, alcoholics, tried their best. They moved to Los Angeles when I was 2 years old. So they tried their best to, they had 3 boys. So they tried their best to keep us out of the hood and out of the, because they knew what would happen if we were running around and, so they tried their best to put us in a great situation. But when you do that and, So I was fortunate to survive around a lot of kids that probably had a lot more than me, you know. But I was taken in by my best friends to this day, and you know, life was good, man. It was childhood was good. I did all the fun stuff you can possibly imagine, you know.
And your dad was also security.
Yeah, yeah. My dad did security for the Roxy. Yeah, and I lived right next door to that. And when we were younger, and yeah, he did security for the Roxy. I think it was like Axel Rose at the time, and I remember him taking me in limos and like. Who knows what they were doing? I don't even remember, but I know it was a 1 a.m. limo I was in. I remember it clearly on Sunset, and but it was a wild time. It was the '80s, man. It was the late '80s, and yeah, it was interesting, man, being around all that, you know.
So did you get to meet Axl Rose and people like that?
I'm sure I did. I don't remember. You know, I met a lot of people growing up, but I don't remember directly. At that time, you know, I'm sure I did meet some names around that time. Some interesting things.
Do you think that has something to do with you becoming an artist at some point?
Not at all. Not at all, man. You know, I never really listened to music when I was growing up. Like, I don't remember. You know, you always have the dude. I used to listen to Run DMC. I was listening to LL Cool J when I was 5. I wasn't that dude. Nah, but you know, the first hip hop song I ever heard, man, it was 1986, because I remember I was 4 years old. I had to look back and find this year. But the first song I ever heard was Beastie Boys, Girls. I still remember that, where I was when I heard it. And then later on in life, I went back and said, why did I remember this song? And then you can hear the bells in it. And it's just made for kids. Dan, 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 dan. You know what I'm saying? So I know how that resonated with me as a youngster. But that was the first hip hop song I ever heard. And I was like, Girls, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I like Girls too. And then, you know, ever since then, I've been getting all of them.
You know, we've had many conversations over the years that we've known each other. And I recall you telling me about a troubled childhood.
Yeah, man, you know, growing up, you know, in LA, during the, you know, mid 80s, early 90s, it was wild, man. And my parents were, you know, the parents were just big homies pretty much at that point. Like, you know, my house was always filled with my brother's friends, and we was all, you know, so there was really no authority until you got in trouble, you got your ass kicked. But until then, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want. Don't get caught, you're good to go, you know. But yeah, it was the late '80s and to the, you know, mid '90s growing up. So it was rough in Los Angeles. You had gang violence that was crazy. You had the crack epidemic going on, and like it was tough, man. You know, coming home from school and you know, smelling that smell, you know, knowing what was going on in the household, you know, it was hard, bro. It was definitely hard. And being around, you know, in an environment, see, you have to understand, I was born in the projects of St. Louis. So my parents are from the projects, you know. So when we moved to LA, they tried to put us in our best environment, but with the project mentality, you know what I'm saying? So it was really rough having, like, you know, the parents that just didn't fit the other parents, you know, and then, you know, having to have, like, you know, yeah, it was tough, man. It was tough growing up like that.
As a child, did you get into any of the gang stuff?
You know, I avoided the gangs, man. There was just one story, man, where I was, you know, I was always running around with like young knuckleheads, you know. And in LA, there's this thing where you have like cliques. The youngsters have little cliques before they join the big gang. You know, I was always running around in cliques, and there was this one point in time I was in a stairwell, and the homies that I was running with at that time, they were moving on to the bigger gang. And this was a very critical moment in my life that I made a very good decision, you know. They asked me, say, hey, yo, we about to move on to the bigger gang, you want to roll? And at this time, my brother, you know, I started getting into, I found my brother's rhyme book. He went away to jail. And I found his rhyme book when he went away, and I started reading his rap. And shout out to Mo, man, and I'm gonna spit a rhyme from that rap. I'm gonna spit a rhyme from that book. And I remember reading, I form into a carcass and spark this. Never forget that line. Back then I was like, whoa. So then, like, you know, I started to get into his rhyme book. And then, you know, around that time I was getting tested, you know, and, you know, having to make decisions. And I was in the stairwell, man. I told, these fellas that I was like, I'm going to start rapping and pursuing rapping, man, and kind of do something else. Which if I didn't have that to say at that moment, I might have followed them and my life would be completely different.
So your brother's rhyme book pretty much saved you, really.
Definitely, definitely. I wish I had it to this day, for sure.
If I remember correctly, there's a word that you used to describe your family. You said a dysfunctional family.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, do you think that is why you got pushed to the streets a lot?
Yeah, and that's usually why it is, man. You just try to find some type of, I had to learn how to be a man on the street. Pops was a good example of just being there. But he was young too. He had us young, and he tried his best, but sitting us down and doing our homework with us wasn't happening. It was a more of like, go outside, don't get in trouble, and if you do, you got to come see me.
When you were 8 years old, you told me a story about some graffiti on a wall, and that was the first time you saw graffiti.
Nah, man, my brother threw a party, and there was a flyer he had, and it was an artist named Coffee out of Los Angeles. Shout out to Coffee. He did one of my album covers later in life. But at that time, I was looking at this flyer. I didn't know what it was. I just saw this really cool piece of art. It was like a b-boy with a hat like this, and like, he had a microphone, and it was for a party, and I was real young. And yeah, it was the first time I've seen graffiti when I was 8, and I just know I liked it. I thought it was cool,
And then that person that did that design later in life does your artwork for you.
Yeah. He did the artwork for an album called Ballyhoo. Yeah.
Look how life goes in cycles.
Crazy.
In a certain way. It's mad, isn't it?
Crazy, man. Great dude, great artist.
And talking about life going in cycles, when we did the show with Pharcyde last week, or when it was your show and I just jumped on, obviously, like I said, Will.I.Am jumped on stage as well, but that's not where your journey with them began, is it?
Absolutely. I've been touring with Fat Lip for probably like 15 years now. Started off touring with Fat Lip. We've been around the world together, and I ended up doing a tour with Fat Lip and Trey together around Europe. We went around Europe and done some odd shows in around the U.S. as well. But yeah, it dates back till then. I ended up meeting Will in 2011. We just laughed about this recently backstage. So I think it was around 2011, 2010. I met Will at Rock the Bells. And I think Fat Lip told me he was going to be there. So I made like a CD for him, like a demo. I was gonna hand to him, and I had his name on the demo, and I was like, it was for Will.I.Am. So when I saw him backstage, I was like, yo, Will, check this out. And I gave it to him, and he was like, had his name on it, and he was like, because he wasn't announced to be there, he was just a special guest, but of course I had the inside information. So I was like, I'm gonna give him a CD and like, some beats and stuff. And he was like, how'd you know I was gonna be here? And I was just like, I'm young, I'm all these guys are my big bros, so I'm always the younger little brother. And I couldn't think of anything to tell him, so I was just like, I know where all the good people are gonna be. And he was like, okay. So he like took the CD, went back to the car, put it in the car. And then like, I guess he hit me up 3 days later and invited me over to his house, man. And I ended up rolling up there with Mole Man and Fat Lip. So, that was the first time I met Will. And shout out to Will, man. Will is a very special person, man. One of those people in LA, they know him as like a mega star, but then you also see him at one of the, underground hip hop club standing next to you,
Bro, come on, we were there.
Right, man. No, that's normal, man. He treats the underdogs just like the superstars, man, and he always gives me attention, always gives me advice, always has an ear for me, and it means a lot, and I appreciate him for that. And like, I'm not the only one he does that for. He's known for being that person. So shout out to Will, man.
I mean, even when you see him,
bro.
Even when you see him on TV, you just get this vibe that he's just a really, really good guy in life. Like he's not got any attitude or, you know what I mean? And because like quite often you get told, don't meet your heroes.
I was actually gonna ask him what's his like morning routine, because his energy is always on point. Yeah. I'm like, what do you work out? What are you eating? You know what I'm saying? Like his energy is always on point, man, and he's always in good vibes, and it's always a pleasure to see Will.
What was it like when you went over to his house? What was the reason for? I mean, obviously you said he was like to play demos and all that kind of stuff. But what happened at the house?
It was really cool, man. You know, Will, he's just loves music, man. I remember just sitting there and him going like, check out my new machine I got. And it was like this new thing. And like, he was so into it and he was showing us this new thing he got and how he was want to use it to DJ or something. I didn't remember what machine it was. But, you know, it was just sitting down like, and we didn't even get to talk about music. Like, music was not even, we were just hanging out because Fat Lip was there and they have a history as well. So they're talking about that and we're just hanging out and I'm over here sitting like, I'm like, yo, what's up with like the music? Like, at some point he was like, oh, you guys want to talk about music? But so he's just a really cool guy, man, you know, and just hanging out with him is just.
So what did you learn from your experience of going to the house and talking to him with Fat Lip there?
Just, what I'm on the right track. You know, just being in the presence of someone like that means a lot to an up and coming artist. At that time, for me, it was like what? It was I think it was longer than I'm thinking it was ago. But just knowing like, okay, that meant a lot to me. Saying like, wow, he listened to my stuff. He actually told me about it and said, So I just learned that I was on the right track, man. I was doing the right thing, and just keep going at that time, yeah.
So did you grow up with Fat Lip as well?
I didn't grow up with Fat Lip.
How did you?
I mean, I guess, but I was young when I met him. I met him when I was mid-20s, maybe a little earlier than mid-20s. Yeah, so I met Fat Lip through Mole Man, which is my older brother. They have a history together, and we ended up going on tour in the U.S. We've done several, but the first one was, I think, oh man, we've done so much, I can't even remember, but we've been to Hawaii together, around the U.S., Canada. Funny story about Canada, we got to the border of Canada and our driver had like some paperwork issues and I had to get behind the wheel and drive the car, and I'm not sure if I don't think I had my license, or if I did, it wasn't valid. Okay. But I remember in this van, me and Lip, and I'm hitting 110 because we're late to the show in Toronto or something like that. Whatever is closest to the border, we had to get you right in. And I'm hitting 110 on the freeway with Fat Lip. And we made it to the show. We were a little late, but we rocked it and drove back. And it was just it's an incredible story. You had to be there, I suppose. But it was one story about that. But we've toured all over the U.S. and Europe together.
Describe the feeling.
Fat Lip is a genius, bro. I've never, like, I'm talking about like, he's always warming up his voice. He's always, at this time he was making beats. He was really into like bringing his equipment on tour, setting it up in the studio and making beats. And this was like, 15 years ago or so. So I'm pretty sure he's sick with it right now on the beats. But yeah, just really into the music, man. Just a music person, lives, eats, breathes it, bro. Like it's not hard to understand, why you have like Mos Def singing his lyrics at his shows, and like, Kanye saying that Kanye said on the station that Fat Lip is his favorite artist, So he gets that love everywhere, man. He's recognized as one of the dopest MCs on the planet, for sure. So to be hanging out with him on a tour bus is like
next level.
Is like next level.
And just going back to that situation where you were in Will.I.Am's house, did he give you any advice? Or did he try and get you into any deal situations, anything of the sort?
At the time, I don't think he wanted to take me to any major labels. I think he knew that wasn't going to be a great fit for me. I believe he said that out loud when we were sitting there. So yeah, he just thought that that's not where I wanted to be, or I needed to be, or should be. And so I kind of rolled off that and to go back to doing my own independent thing.
So do you think he was doing that kind of to protect you?
Absolutely, I think so. I think he saw that like you don't need it. His vision is like years ahead. Man. Like I was watching an interview not too long ago, and he was talking about how robots are going to start writing songs, and it's just happening right now. Like, literally, I just saw AI generated music, and this is like his interview's 5 years old. You know, he's like, you know, so he's way ahead of his time. He's very smart. He knows what he's talking about, man. So back then he was like, you know, I'm not gonna take you to these labels. We ended up doing a few tracks. He sent me some beats. I recorded them. It never came out, but just even that alone was enough for me to, you know, to inspire me to kind of keep doing my own thing, you know.
So, can you explain to me how it feels to know that you're in the presence of megastars, superstars, but yet not that many people know who you are, even though you've toured with these guys?
Yeah, you know, just getting props and respect from them was all I needed. You know, the fans was always hit or miss. I was always an opening act growing up, so I always had to, you know, fight the uphill battle. I got a lot of love. Sometimes it was harder than others, but just, you know, when Fat Lip would come up to me and say, yo, you rock that, that's all I needed, you know, was Fat Lip to say, you killed that, or, you know, so.
You know, one thing I admire about you is your willingness to travel the world at your own expense, to basically meet other artists and grow with them.
Yeah.
What inspired that?
You know, my first trip out of the country was the 2 or 3 day, actually it was 2 or 3 days after 9/11. I believe it was, I caught the flight on the 13th, which is when all the flights open.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me that 9/11 happened and you suddenly thought, oh, I want to be on a plane?
No, I got my. I was planning a trip to Japan. You know, I'm out on Melrose, which is like a kind of like an arch. You know, like an art street in Los Angeles. People know where Melrose is. And I was out there selling CDs, and this is like, you know, this is 2000, 2001, right?
Yeah, 2001.
2001, and I'm selling CDs, and this is before MySpace and everything, right? So interesting story. I'm actually writing. This is going in a book that I'm writing, but interesting story. So I'm out selling CDs, and this dude comes up to me. He's like, "What you doing?" I'm like, "I'm selling CDs. I'm about to go to Japan next week." He's like, "Oh, you about to go to Japan? That's dope. Hit up my boy when you get there. He's gonna take care of you. He took care of me." And that's how friends were made back then. You know, it wasn't like going on MySpace or Instagram. This is like grassroots.
It was real friends.
It was real friends, and like, and shout out to that dude. If you're seeing this, man, shout out, because that your boy really took care of us, and shout out to him as well. So basically, we ended up. It's 9/11. I think we're supposed to leave 9/12. And we didn't end up getting on a plane until 9:13 because the flights opened up on 9:13. So it's 9/11. We're sitting in the living room and we're watching the towers burn. And my boy, Milks, he has to go get his ticket from the World Trade Center in downtown Los Angeles. So we're watching the towers burn in New York, and he has to go get his ticket from the World Trade Center. So we're like, you need to go get your ticket right now before like this shit shuts down.
Or before another plane hits that.
Oh, right, exactly, right? So he gets down there and like literally gets in there before they close the door. Like right before they close the door, gets his ticket in the clear. And then I think right after that, the second plane hit. You know, so it was like right back. He just got in at the right time. So yeah, we're on a plane flying to Japan on 9/13. Now I just remember when it landed, everyone started clapping. You know what I mean? I think this is my first flight out of overseas. This is my first overseas flight. Okay. Yeah, so everyone started clapping, man, and it was just an amazing experience, dude. And
I guess it was relief as well.
Yeah, that's what it was. You know, we landed, everyone's clapping. It's just that day after 2 days after 9/11. So
can you imagine the tension on that flight?
It was crazy. It was crazy.
So how did you feel knowing that this has just happened in the world? And
you know what? I was just a crazy little kid, bro. I was happy to have the free little vodka shots I was getting. I wasn't even thinking about it, man. I'm on a plane. I don't even.
So you were like, I've had my vodka shots. I don't care if this plane gets hijacked now.
Yeah, I thought I was in first class, bro. I had little vodka shots, and I'm ordering them, you know, continuously. So it was fun, man.
Along those journeys, where did you meet Grass and when?
Oh man, I met Grass.
So Grass is DJ Grasshopper, who's like a brother to me, and he used to be my DJ. We've maintained our friendship for so many years. An amazing DJ and an amazing person. DJ Grasshopper introduced me to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I met Grass through Diesel Dan, which Diesel Dan knows my brother and DJ C Brown from he lived in LA and went to school. And Diesel Dan had a record label called B9000, and he dropped my first record. He put out my first record, and then brought me out to Belgium. And during that time, I met Grass and Minnow and like everyone that I'm friends with now during that time. Yeah, man. So I've been rocking with Grass since 2001. It's been 20 years, man. I've been rocking with Grass. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Belgium was my second trip out of the country. For my first one was Japan, and then I came back to LA and then started working on the record, and then flew out to Belgium for my second trip. Yeah.
What's your relationship with Ras Kass and Tricky as well?
Ras Kass, no relationship. I actually went to him at the show, and I was telling him the first time I met him, we released a album, my crew, called Sunch Punch, and we had a record release party at a club called Ballistics, and he was a regular at Ballistics. Ballistics is actually where Will.I.Am got discovered at. He used to go up there and battle rap, and got discovered by Eazy-E there.
I was gonna say, you explained that to me.
Yeah, man. And then it was ran by David Faustino, aka Bud Bundy from Married with Children.
Okay.
But I was super young, so it'd be crazy to see him on TV, Bud Bundy, and then at night he's up in there,
Partying,
throwing a hip hop show. It's crazy. But that club is. We had our record release party, and I remember Ras Kass being in the building. I was rapping for Ras Kass when I was like,
that's sick.
Maybe 15, 16.
One of the greatest lyricists ever.
Yeah, man.
What about Tricky?
Tricky, man. I met Tricky when I was 18 years old. My boy saw him at a club and was like, I got this artist I'd love to do an album with. Are you interested in doing a hip hop record? And he was like, definitely. I was in the studio with him for about 3 months working on that album. It never came out during that time. We ended up parting ways. I ended up going on some tours and doing my own thing, and I bumped into him again in LA, and was like, yo, we need to do a record. And he was like, definitely. So we ended up doing an album together. Then fast forward, he just released an EP on his label last September.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Still
So
active.
we've been rocking for since I was 18 years old. Back and forth. Great guy, great mentor, always there for me.
Again, I'm gonna go back to that question because it's mind-boggling that you're surrounded by all these people that have had some crazy levels of success, but yet you're relatively unknown. And you've got what, 10 albums?
Yeah, I got there was a point.
So what's happened? Why has that success not come to you the same way?
Well,
and I don't mean that disrespectfully.
No. Life has its own, you have decisions. I think I made a decision when I was, in my mid-20s. I had when I first went out to Belgium, first time I met Grass, first time I met all these guys, I actually met my first wife in Belgium. So during this time, I'm touring, I'm buzzing, I'm flying nonstop from Peru to Japan, from Japan to New York, from New York to Hawaii, from Hawaii, nonstop. My tour schedule is crazy.
So that in itself is a level of success, really, isn't it?
Yeah, no. All I've ever wanted was to tour around the world and make dope music with dope artists.
Right. So what I'm trying to get at is this. Yeah? So you can have the success, but doesn't necessarily mean success is measured by people recognizing you.
No, absolutely. Success is what you want.
Right.
When I was younger, I wasn't thinking about, I had some cargo pants on, a backpack. All I wanted to do was go to Japan and hang out with some Japanese rappers and make some music out there. That's all I wanted to do. And I did that. So success has landed for me. As I gotten older, I started to want different things, and so success is another landmark I have to reach. But yeah, I've definitely reached success. I felt the pains of success. I remember when I was in Japan. This is many years after the first time I've been, but I remember being in Japan. I think it must have been maybe 2005. Been many times before, but many times after that. But I remember this time, my tour schedule was really crazy, and I was touring around the world, and I just didn't have a home base. It was always just dragging luggage around, and I had a breakdown, man. I had a breakdown in Japan. I'll never forget it. And it was just kind of like that, at a young age, I had pretty much everything thrown at me. You know, everything. I was just tossed in it, and I didn't have to work for it like I do now, and appreciate it in that way. So I had this this point where I just kind of got overwhelmed with everything, and I was like, I need a normal life. Coming straight from 18 years old. Actually been doing it since 16, touring locally with my crew, to like being at 18 going solo at like 20 and touring nonstop from like 18 to 21. There was a point where I was like, man, I need a normal life. Like, this isn't normal. My friends that I grew up with are going to college and like doing normal things. I'm over here like catching 3 flights a week, and I'm like, I need an apartment. You know what I mean? Like, I need a job. I need, a home. And so my energy shifted during that time where like, I wanted that. After I felt like I've made it. I'm touring around the world, I'm rapping. There's nothing I really wanted, At that age, I didn't need a lot of money. I just needed free drinks on the plane. I needed enough to get a McDonald's burger. I need enough, give me 20, 30 minutes on stage. I'm the happiest kid in the world. But it started to take its toll. And so I started to pull back a little bit and try to want some other things in my life. And that's when I slowed down. And I remember, bumping into some artists going like, yo, what happened, man? Like, you were buzzing. Like, I was starting to buzz, and I didn't even know while I was doing all this what was going on, I remember being on tour with A+, I was a big fan of Souls of Mischief and all those guys, man. And I was like, A+, man, thank you so much for taking me on tour, man. Like, this is the funniest thing ever. He was like, bro, like, of course, like, your name rings bells. He told me that, and I was like, oh, it does? Like, I didn't know. I was just a hip hop kid doing hip hop things. And that was it.
What years were the peak for you?
I was about 20, from 18 to 23, around 25 years straight of just.
That's your age, not the year, 2018.
Yeah, that was my age. So I'm thinking.
What, mid 2000?
When was that? 18. From like 2000 to 2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Touring nonstop around the world. So Australia, did a whole record in Australia with superstars now that are out there now. But back then, everyone was just starting out,
In this day and age, with the way the internet and
Yeah,
everything is,
yeah.
people are superstars and you don't even know who they are.
That's crazy. I was watching. I was just thinking that, man. I saw someone today that was touring Europe, sold out shows. I was like, I never heard about this guy. It's insane. Yeah.
Who is that?
Some guy named Rashad or something like that. I don't think you would even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
There you go. There's an example right there.
Right. Yeah, man. So it's the YouTube era. So like, there's different kind of stars now.
Do you think these stars are deserving to be stars, or it's just they know how to push the right buttons on the internet?
It's not the same. It's just not the same feel. I don't even really, I think in this day and age, I don't really want to be famous. It's just, you never had like, see, that's the thing. Back in the day in the 20s and the 30s, you knew who Howlin' Wolf was, right? You knew who Muddy Waters was.
Yeah.
But, but I don't think that they would want to be famous in this day and age, man. Like, they were just doing music and touring. Nowadays, there is a different motive or
I was just saying that something is coming to my mind where I'm thinking it's weird because all the people that deserve to be famous don't want to be famous, and all the people that have no clue what being famous is and they just see other famous people, they're the ones pushing for the fame.
Right.
Where the people that are actually creative and talented are the ones that just want to get on with the stuff and they don't care about fame or glory.
No, absolutely. I think being famous is its own thing. So like, there we go. So like back in the 20s and 30s, you were famous for playing the trumpet. Now you're famous for
being a YouTuber.
Yeah, doing backflips off rooftops onto other rooftops, like, and then and then you make music. It's like it was more craft. You know what I mean? Like, people just want to I just love to write and I love to perform and just rap. Like,
I mean, let's not get it twisted though. If people are jumping from rooftops to rooftops, that's a talent.
Yeah. See, these kids are risking their lives for fame.
For attention.
I risk my life every day. Yeah. Every time I take a flight to a foreign country, a third world country, every time I'm in the air for eight hours, 30,000 feet in the air. I land someplace I don't speak the language, a third world country where, you know, you hear on the news that they're kidnapping. You know, I risk my life every day for life, not for fame, to live, you know? So I think that's the difference. Like, you got kids out here risking their lives for clicks and likes.
Because I know who you are. I know that you've jumped on all of these planes to go and do what you're doing for all the right reasons. You know, it's like you're chasing the dream, but not the fame and the glory and the attention.
Absolutely.
You're happy having your free space to sit down in a cafe, drinking a cup of coffee with no one knowing who you are.
Absolutely.
But yet, you know, later on you're taking that stage and you're killing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
That's perfect, really.
That's it, man. That's it. That's all I can ask for.
You know, I've never known you to be in a job, but yet you've got the funds to travel around the world. So that's obviously coming from the creativity.
Yeah, man.
So for anyone who thinks that you can't travel the world and do all that by being an underground, unknown, kind of respectfully, by the way, artist, it's possible.
True that, man. I sat down for about 10 years, head down, no touring, and wrote songs, you know. I really got into licensing and placements during that time, and that's what I was doing when I pulled back after my little breakdown in Japan. I pulled back for a little bit and just went home and started writing and really getting into licensing and placing, stuff like that. And that's when I started seeing real money, you know.
Explain the licensing.
Yeah, man, you know, licensing is like, it's interesting. It's very challenging, man. So I work with some great A&Rs in that area, and you know, sometimes they'll send you a song and say, hey, we need you to write a happy song about, you know, driving down the street or something like that. And like, you could be in the most darkest, depressed days of your life, and you got to write a happy song. So it's very challenging. And I'm a writer at heart. All I do is write. I love to write. So I took on challenges like that, and I ended up writing songs that I thought I couldn't write in genres I thought I didn't fit in, you know? So I did that for about 10 years straight. It strengthened my pen. And it grew me as an artist, you know, and to kind of step out of hip hop. I'm always hip hop. No matter where I go, I apply hip hop to what I'm doing just by being me. Right?
So theoretically speaking, how many pens do you have?
Man, a lot, all over the place. What do you mean? How many pens do I got? A gang of pens.
Yeah.
You mean?
So I mean, for example, you've got your pen for the stage work, you got your pen for the studio work, you got your pen for the licensing.
Yeah.
Then there's all the different avenues of the licensing, happy song, you know, hard lyrics, and do you get what I mean? So how many pens do you think you got?
Man, I'll tell you, there's only two genres that I don't touch.
Right.
And that's reggae, dancehall, Jamaican music, and country.
Why is that?
One, I have too much respect for reggae and dancehall. I remember being in, you know, when Sean Paul came out.
Yeah.
I used to hang around the big studios in LA, and when Sean Paul came out, everybody thought that they could be, because he kind of, you know, he didn't look like he had fair skin, could pass for maybe Latino a little bit. So you had like people coming out the woolworks when he became a phenomenon, trying to kind of, you know, clone him. And I used to just laugh at them in the studio doing this like Jamaican accent. You know, it was just really funny. So I never wanted to be that dude. You know, I always stayed away from dance hall. That's their stuff. It comes from there. Keep it there. Keep it authentic. That's just me personally. I don't mess with it. I just love to listen to it. I don't need to get up there and do a, you know, my little two-step to that.
So it's more a respect thing that you don't want to touch it rather than don't like it.
Right, exactly. And you know, country, I just don't relate to it. I don't listen to it.
In respects of like you being the artist, what's more valuable to you, owning the masters or money?
I think it's important for artists to own masters, right? Like, definitely own a piece of yourself. Make an album and keep it for yourself. But it's okay to make an album and give it away. It's you know, as long as you have your own, you don't feel bad about doing a record with a label. Like right now, I own 10 records, 10 albums. I own them. They're mine. Cool. A label comes to me and says, let's do a record together, and I'll own it. Sure.
But back in the day, if you signed a deal, it was like exclusive. You had to give them everything.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of artists that like start off young and spend their whole careers, 15, 20 years making music and handing it over. That's why I think that being independent to some extent is healthy for you as an artist. It keeps you from getting resentful. Like as long as you have something of your own that you own, you don't really feel too bad about making a deal that might not be in your favor, or someone might, the label might have more leverage than you. But and then at the end of the day, you go back to doing what you were doing because you can still, it's never your last song. It's never your last album. People get caught up in like one song, for the rest of their life. I make, a song a week. To me, it's not a big deal.
If I'm being honest, that's quite slow.
To be honest with you, I kind of sped that shit up a little bit. It might take me a little longer, depending on what it is. But yeah, I bet it's kind of slow. I'm actually going to the studio tomorrow, and yeah, there's a producer waiting on some music from me for a while. So yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of, I'm a little slow.
So what would you say hip hop has done for you?
Hip hop has took me around the world, saved my life, kept me out of gang banging, probably kept me out of prison. Every friend that I value from around the world is through hip hop. If it wasn't for hip hop.
Can you imagine how big that statement really is?
Yeah, no, I definitely can, man.
And remember, this is when we were young. And I always say when we were young, but I have to say it because things were different. Like, we were constantly being told, this is a phase. It's not gonna last.
Right.
And look at all you people that said it wasn't gonna last, and now you're earning off of it. And you're basically getting rappers and DJs to come on your adverts and all those. You are the same people that had no faith in us. But as soon as you see money can be made, you're on it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, there was a point where I just wasn't feeling hip hop, man. I really, besides the breakdown type of thing that I just after traveling so much and being worn out, there was a lot of music being promoted that I just was like, is this what this is? Like I just feel like the culture was being ripped out of it.
Which is what I'm trying to explain what I just explained.
Yeah. So I ended up just like, never. It was hard, it was just like, this is who I am, this is what I represent, but it doesn't. It's like I can't lie to myself and say that I feel comfortable standing next to certain artists that are so-called hip hop. I would see. I'm not gonna mention any names, but I'd see some like magazine covers, and I was like, what is it, like the XXL covers and stuff like that? Like I'd never wanted to be on one of those covers next to any. I'm not gonna say which one, but I never was like, I don't fit in. Like. That's not me, so I kind of left it alone.
Do you think that's hindered your success? Or your career even?
Maybe so, but for me, the real ones that do it, the success is flying to, Cambodia and meeting the only rapper there and doing a song with him. That's success to me, and it still is in a way, man. I still love traveling. I still love making music around the world, And I was watching the Quincy Jones documentary, and he was saying that like when he would go visit these places, he would get in with the people. And that was after I was already doing it, and I was like, yes, that validates what I've been doing. Like that's what I love doing. I love to just go make music, and I love to travel, and that to me, that's enough, man. And I've been blessed to kind of have my gas tank full the whole way through, I'm not a rich artist, but I somehow make it work where I travel around the world and just continue to do this. That to me, that's success, man.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like, who needs £2 billion in their account?
Right, man. If I had, if I had £2 billion in my account, I probably would still be rapping, but I'd have a bigger responsibility, man, to probably feed the homeless, To me, I would feel I'd have a bigger responsibility than just be a billionaire on stage, like I feel like, what am I doing? Of course, I'd still be rapping, but I feel like I'd have a bigger responsibility with this thing,
Do you have any resentment towards the way the industry handles artists and stuff like that?
Yeah, man, these kids, man, the kids that are like going to jail in America, man, just, you know, finally finding a way to, you know, get their family out of those situations, and their, you know, their, what they're rapping about and the energy that they're attracting is putting them in bad situations, man. And like these labels are just there to, you know, benefit from that, man. It's sad, you know, and you know, you have this music where these kids are just, you know, you can't really blame it on the kids, because you got to blame it on the listener and the consumer as well, of what we are asking to be entertained with. You know, we like violence, we like, you know, the Terminator movies and all that stuff, and now these kids are being like real life action movie characters, man, and like, but the real consequences too, though. You know, so that's the sad part.
I mean, if you could change that, how would you change that?
I would let kids know, man, that when you pick up that pen, you and you sit down and you focus for 5 hours on one thing, if you can't turn that beat off and read your lyrics back to yourself, you need to reevaluate what you're writing down. Because you know, for instance, take all the songs you've ever made, and I'm talking to the kids out there right now, take every song you've ever written, type it out, put it in a book, open it and read that book. You know, read that book. And if it sounds like, you know, gibberish, it's not making any sense, you not even want to really value what you're doing with your time, because that pen that you're picking up is so powerful, man. We've been blessed. You know, hip hop genre writes the most lyrics for a song. You have a pop song that you're probably writing 16 words in a pop song. In a rap verse, you're writing
16 words on the first 2 lines.
Exactly, bro. I used to, back in the days, we used to have to put out 15 song albums, right? If you had less than 15 songs, you were lazy. You know what I mean? Imagine that each song is like an essay. So you're writing 15 essays in one body of work. You know? Think about that, man. Like, that's what I would tell these kids, man. Just sit down and really look at what you're writing. You know, you're going to get the same result. There's a million people for everybody out there. There's a million people that love lyrics. There's a million people that love the bullshit. You know what I mean? It's kind of like your choice. What do you want to do? You know, when you're writing, you're actually writing your life. I always wrote my life. I never talked about anybody in my raps. I always wrote about, as a matter of fact, I noticed when I was younger, I'm more of an escape artist. I never talked about my childhood, my upbringing. I never rapped about, you know, half the stuff that these major artists from like Tupac, you know, I lived that same life. The same thing Pac's remembered for, I grew up like that too. I just never talked about it, you know? I used my music to escape that. Some people will use their environment to get to where they were going. I wanted to get out of my environment. You know, I wanted to escape. So me personally, it's a personal thing, I just wanted to escape my environment. So I tend to write like that. So I would tell the young kids to, you know, just be very careful when you pick up that pen and what you're saying, because just imagine those words coming true. You know, I think that's the most powerful statement.
You know what? That was really good what you said, and I hope people learn from that.
That was the thing, man. Growing up, we used to rap to not have to join gangs, you know, or even fight. Like battle rapping where we from was so you didn't have to fight, you know. But it's crazy nowadays, you know, these kids are running around 30 deep everywhere. You know, it's like you got to have a gang to be a rapper now.
But do you think social media and the way the world is now is kind of pushing people? You know, like when we were young, again, I bring that when we were young, there was the thing with people smoking cigarettes and stuff, and there was that peer pressure. Like there was kids that cigarettes weren't for you, but you still went and smoked it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now it's like with social media and everything, there's this peer pressure pushing people to do things that they wouldn't normally do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, crazy, man. I think there's like a list of, you know, people that are just have died from Instagram live, you know. It's just sad, man. You know, it's like you know, the messed up thing about it is it's like it's psychologically planned in a way. Like there's things that these apps feed off of are human, you know, desires, you know, and which is, you know, these people that are making these apps and designing them are including human desires in these apps to keep us using them. And you know, when you know like people are like dying for likes, it's like there's some point there has to be some responsibility. Like, yo, there has to be like a disclaimer or something you got to send out to these people, like, yo, don't jump off a building to get a like.
Say, for example, I put a post up saying that I was going to kidnap someone and bring them here to do an interview because I've been trying to get them in for a while. They're friends of mine, and I can joke like that with them. It's banter. But yet I get blocked for a month, and my account's been restricted for like 2 years now for that. Yeah. But someone is walking on a train station, knocking somebody out, and you're pushing all that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
What is going on?
Craziness, bro.
And that's, you see what I'm saying? They're
Totally.
just encouraging people to be wrong. And wrong seems to be the new right.
Right.
But you know what? On the subject of wrong and right, I mean, being an artist, did it ever influence depression for you?
Definitely.
Do you want to talk about that?
You know, like I said, when I started doing this, I never consciously chose to be an artist. Sometimes, your friends are doing it. I just kind of got chosen by this world to be a part of it, right? So I never had a good grasp on the tornado I'm in. I'm just in a tornado spinning around. My friends are in it. We're all just waiting to see where we land, right? Now within that, tornado, there's a lot circling it with you, Yeah, man, being away from family, touring, it weighs on you a lot, man. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, when I was younger, man, I had a point where I was just doing too much, and I had to like step back from it. So now, kind of managing depression is kind of where I'm at with it, making sure I don't fall or let too many things. But I had a point where I was growing up that I had to kind of like think about the things that I'm letting affect me and how much I can let them affect me, The reason artists have like PR and managers and things like that, because we're very giving, we feel gifted and we want to give, and there's a lot of people that take advantage of artists, and like just from being the way you are, so you have people set to protect you, which is like your PR, your manager, and those are important, man, because us as artists, I think it's in our nature to just be vulnerable, and giving, and everything that we are doing, we'll do for free. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have a manager, because they're like, no, you don't need to do this for free. And you're like, oh, okay. So I think that all that comes with, you just got to have the right team around you kind of protecting you as an artist, and just kind of, I think it's a great time now to be an artist, because when I was growing up, the thing to do was to get on a label, go ask somebody else to validate you, that will make you depressed. I remember going to labels and them saying, asking a 21-year-old kid who are you? And, how can I package you? And I'm like, I'm 20, I don't even know who I am yet. And you're asking me like, these questions that I can't really answer. And like some kids, and you'd be surprised, man, a lot of the MCs that you see that started out really young, that became really big, they're on a label with 40-year-old professionals around them. So you get the idea as a youngster, like, oh, maybe I'm just not as talented as Nas was when he was 19, or maybe I'm just not naturally talented like that. But like, no, you gotta, as I got older, I started to realize that like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes of these artists that you see at these young ages. Not only are some are getting taken advantage of, some are getting propelled faster than they should in directions of success. But like, it's not just, being talented. It takes a team, and it takes not only a professional team, but a personal team to kind of keep you protected as well, man. So depression is a real thing for artists, man. I think that there should definitely be therapists at these labels. You see all these kids on drugs running around, drinking themselves and smoking themselves to death, bro. And like daily, masking pain with alcohol every night. When I was on tour, when I was younger, on my rider, I had a bottle of Hennessy every night. On my rider, because I thought that was cool. I thought that when I show up to the show, I need to have a bottle of Hennessy on the table.
You regret that now, though?
Yeah, I still do that now.
Well, it's got you into a habit, hasn't it?
Yeah, man. I'm still an artist. I'm still human.
Talking of artists, I just want to quickly switch the subject a little bit to your grandmother.
Yeah.
She used to live on the same road as certain people.
Yeah, Chuck Berry. She grew up in St. Louis.
Okay.
St. Louis, on the same street as Chuck Berry.
So did you ever meet any of Chuck Berry's family that were there when you went to visit?
No. I only visited St. Louis once on tour.
Right.
I moved to LA when I was 2. So I've been in LA that whole time. But once on tour, I visited my family. It was a really awkward experience. But my grandmother would always tell me stories about Chuck Berry. And she would say, they used to make fun of him for his duck dance. So that little duck dance that he does with the guitar and his foot.
Look how big that got.
That's what she said. She was like, "Look at him now." We used to laugh at him, and for that, the duck dance, and said like, to stop doing it, and he stuck with it, and look at Chuck. That duck dance is famous. The creator of rock and roll, right there, right?
Yeah.
So I did an album called IAMOMNI 3, inspired by my grandmother and my friend's mom. My friend's mom was, I grew up under her, and she would always tell me stories. She was a big rock artist in the 50s. So she would always tell me stories. And with my grandmother's stories, I made this one record called IAMOMNI 3, which is just kind of like, I wanted to step out the box. It's kind of like a hip hop artist in the 50s if I was rapping over like doo-wop type beats and stuff. So that was really cool. That was inspiring. But it was definitely inspired by, old 50s and, 40s music, man. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, you know what? If there was ever a line that you could use to define lack of belief in you to then having the world seeing what you do, that Chuck Berry line is it. That duck dance.
Man.
Imagine that.
Yeah, man. Hearing
And
those.
your grandmother was on the same street.
Yeah, they grew up on the same street, man.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. The films, your music has been in films and stuff as well. So is there one that you could just quickly talk about?
Yeah, dude. One that stands out to me is a Scorsese film that he executive produced, and I kind of hold that close. I kind of want to think that he actually listened to the song himself and was like banging his head to it in his living room. To me, I'm picturing it as he was just like, yeah, this is in the movie. That's what I'm thinking. But that's the one that stands out the most, man.
Okay, what was the film? Something about dragon or?
Oh, the Revenge of the Green Dragon. Yeah, that was the one. Revenge of the Green Dragons. I'm not really sure how the film did. It's never my concern on that end. It's just being a part of it. Being able to go to a movie theater and hear your voice in the movie without having, you didn't have to sit on the set for 8 hours a day. You kind of get to sneak into the movie a little bit.
Yeah.
You look cool. I really enjoy that, man. I really like making music for films. And it's fun.
Your name, Omni, I was introduced to you as Omni, but is now I Am Omni.
Yeah.
Okay, so why the change?
I was having a problem with just Omni. Like when, the internet was blowing up, I had, whenever I'd search my name, I'd find Omni Hotel, Omni this, Omni that.
Omni microphones.
Yeah, everything. And so like when you looked for me, you couldn't find me unless you went to like page 8, or something like that. So I had to figure out a way to separate myself. So I was going through some things and I just figured out I Am Omni
I
works.
just realized, Will.I.Am, I Am Omni.
Yeah.
Did you copy Will?
No, not at all. I'm sure you think so. I'm sure you
I
think
so.
No, I'm sure everyone
does.
does.
I think you're a thief.
I'm sure everyone does. No, it just worked perfectly. Like I just said, I am Omni, and I got IAMOMNI.com.
So do you reckon that's why Will had his I Am as well? Like Will.
No, but his name is William.
I know.
So, yeah,
But that was genius though, because
that was genius.
Yeah.
That was genius. I think he was the first one to use the I Am.
Yeah.
But when I was thinking of it, I wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be like, Lil Wayne or like Little whatever. I wasn't like, now it's become the Little. Like a lot of people are doing I Ams.
Is there any final things you want to say before we finish off?
Yeah, man. I want to double back to a really important part that we spoke on, was like these, the MCs coming in that want to be rappers and just kind of following trends of what's going on there right now. And you can, in this, your power is in your pen. You can write yourself into a mansion, or you can write yourself into a jail cell.
Yeah.
And just know that you don't need to follow path of what's trendy right now or what the kids next to you is doing. You can write your own reality. You know, no one can take that pen out of your hand. You know, people can guide your hand with that pen, but that's when you need to, you know, snatch your hand back and say, this is my life and this is what I'm writing about. And I'm original. There's no one like me on earth. And this is what I have to give. That's what hip hop meant to us when we were growing up, you know. Originality. Don't do what the person's doing next to you, you know. Bring something different to the table, you know, and use this to get out of your situation, not to make your situation worse. So that's what I would say to the kids getting into hip hop, man. The world is yours, literally. And get to it, man. Stay positive and change your life and everyone around you. It's possible.
And just to drum that little bit in that I said earlier as well, that you don't need so much money in order to survive.
No.
It's like people need to stop chasing money and start chasing their dreams a bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're proof of that.
Absolutely. And put the Hennessy down and pick up some water, damn it. Drink some,
there you
drink
go.
some water.
All right, guys, so there you go. Direct from the man himself. If you want to find out more about IAMOMNI, go follow him on all his connection pages linked in the description below. You don't have to subscribe to the channel, and you don't have to like or comment or share, but I dare you not to comment. Omni.
Hey, I'm going to say, I dare you to comment. And if you don't want to subscribe to Blade, you go to IAMOMNI TV, and you can subscribe over there.
Yeah, there you go. Go and subscribe to him. Don't worry about subscribing to 521. Forget that rubbish, man. It's not serving a purpose, is it? Anyway, guys, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the week. And thank you for watching. All right, take care. Peace.